Present.
Fuller. Harris.
Present.
Herr. Vice Chair Rodriguez.
Here.
Chairman Little.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you all stand for the salute the flag, please? Commissioner Harris.
Everyone can put their hands over their heart and repeat after me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no presentations. Has the commissioners had a chance to review the consent? The approval of the minutes on the consent calendar?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a first and a second, please. Please vote. Motion approved 5-0. New business, MB1.
That will be me. We are going to be discussing an ordinance concerning food distribution on public policy. I believe you got a copy of it last Thursday with your agenda packet. I'm not sure whether you had an opportunity to review it. It's fairly short and it's fairly straightforward. We've had incidents in the past where groups are trying to be helpful, and it's appreciated in distributing food and meals to homeless people and other needy persons. We've seen it at Boeing Plaza sometimes and other areas, sidewalks and parking lots and various public property. And while the emotion behind it is notable and to be appreciated, we do see some negative impacts associated with this. First of all, there's generally not ample trash service. There's no potable water. There's no hand washing. There's no restroom available for the people who are getting the food. We don't know if the food is being safely and sanitarily prepared and served. We don't know that these organizations have the proper health permits that are required to prepare and or serve food to people. So what we've put together is an ordinance to prohibit the distribution or serving of food on public property. There are some exemptions for city-sponsored events or city-authorized events, county events, things at the fairground, those kinds of issues. Monday Bites at the Park, for example, is a city-sponsored event, so obviously they can sell and serve food at that time. What we are encouraging groups to do is to work with churches or other charitable organizations and combine the food distribution with some of the other services that we're trying to provide in establishing the procedures to help the homeless and help alleviate the homeless situation up here in the Antelope Valley. So standalone food distribution is not as effective in moving the ball forward as it would be if it's done in conjunction with other kinds of social services. So we're trying to encourage groups to do that. They do still have an avenue for distribution on public property if they choose to apply for a park rental facility, just like any other person or group can do. Again, they'll have to have the proper health permits. They'll have to do it in an area where they have the access to the restrooms and the water and so forth. They'll have to pay the requisite fees, and they'll have to comply with the state health statutes related to food service. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. This is also going to the, I'm sorry, I'm stuttering. This is going on July 19th to the Homeless Impact Commission, and they'll be discussing it there as well. I don't know whether you want to consider either directing staff or putting together a subcommittee to perhaps meet with some of the church groups and the other charitable organizations that tend to do these food distribution events. That might be something for you to consider. I will, of course, defer to you in that regard. And that's about it. I'm available for any questions.
Isn't it on any type of special event? Don't they have to get a permit to get to distribute? I mean, I can remember back in the day, you had to have a permit. You had to have a health for a one-day event, and I believe the health department used to come out and inspect your booth temporary cart, whatever it may be. Isn't that still the?
Yes,
the
it is. It is still, and that just hasn't been complied with by some of these groups.
Any input? So is it?
They always need to have a permit, or it depends on attendance?
No, they would need to have a permit. If they want to do it on public property, the only public property that we will allow them to do it in is at a park, in a park facility, and limited spaces. And they will have to have a permit for that, and they will have to have the proper health permits. It's essential that we ensure that the food that's being handed out to people in need is safely and sanitarily produced. I mean, you know, everybody has the right to healthy and safe and clean food, it seems to me, so.
Being
yeah.
in an unincorporated area in some areas is, are we going to try to police that too? Or there's so many little spots throughout the city that.
Well, we don't have any jurisdiction in unincorporated areas. Just within our actual city boundaries will this apply, and can we enforce anything, frankly? We don't have any authority in unincorporated.
So is this just people that are actually just handing out food, or they're like stands that they're selling these things?
It's really all, I mean, although we're trying to address the issue with the trash and the garbage and the refuse left over from food distribution, it's really anything. So if you are a cart food vendor, you need to come in, and for that, actually, if it's an ongoing thing, you need a regular business license, not just a one-day special event. And absolutely, you have to have your health permits. So I do know that, I don't know how recently, but I do know that in the past, code enforcement targeted some enforcement efforts on the fruit cart things, and shutting them down or making them leave the city boundaries if they don't have the proper permits and if they don't have a business license, which they never ever do. So yes, it is all encompassing.
Okay.
If I remember right too, a lot of those carts had to be inspected by the health department and had to have a seal of approval.
That's absolutely correct, and you'll recall that somebody was it hepatitis? Somebody got something
Yes.
pretty bad in Courts Hill, I think. Yeah, and that's exactly why.
The fruit, from the fruit.
Now, primarily when they're handing out the food to the homeless, where is this happening on a larger scale? I mean, is it primarily the parks, or?
I don't know if it's the parks. I don't personally know if it's the parks. I have seen it at Boeing Plaza. I know that Mr. Bozigian has some additional information about that.
One of the things, if I may, that brought this up is discussions at council about doing better at, working with the homeless population. A lot of what happens, well-meaning, you will have churches or other organizations that will come on a Saturday on a regular time and say they'll go to Boeing Plaza or behind the library and feed people. And they're doing a good thing, and you have 200 people waiting to be fed, and the church group leaves or the social service group leaves, and they've done a good thing in their mind, but now there's 200 people here near the businesses, and then it's left for law enforcement and the businesses and such to deal with it. And we just believe there's a better way to do it. One of the things we tried to do in doing this, and it's just a recommendation, is it is still perfectly allowable with the right permits for any organization, church or otherwise, to do this same thing on their own private property. If you want to feed people, feed them on your own private property. You can do that as long as you follow that. So we don't want to prohibit it. It's just not right to make other people have to deal with the aftermath, is the thought.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Anything else? I'm not sure of putting a committee together. Is somebody interested in like Jocelyn, as far as, I mean, obviously it's an issue that needs to go forward. I understand that churches and organizations are doing a great job in doing some of it, but it's also protecting the citizens as far as, I just remember the things that you had to go through to make things clean, and having the potable water, being able to wash these things, and everything else. So if this encumbers that, it's something that we probably should look at before we make a recommendation. So I guess.
Are you looking to form a committee to, I mean, in other words, I'm under the impression we're just going to basically approve this to go forward to the council.
Correct.
There's another step we'd like you guys to consider as well, too.
Chairman Little,
Yes, sir.
if maybe a couple of you on the commission could form a small committee, meet with the Ministerial Association, go and talk to them about what you have in mind, and try to get a consensus with them on how to solve this problem, that would be a real good step forward.
Okay. And then I would recommend that some of us would make that pardon me?
So let's just, then
Yeah,
let's form.
so we could do that. So, I'd be interested in forming a committee so that we could address those concerns that Mr. Paris has brought up.
I'll be on the committee with you.
Okay.
I'll do it with you.
Okay. So we got Jen, Howard, Lisa, myself. Then Lisa, myself, and Howard.
Okay.
And Chairman Little,
Yes, sir.
if you get a hold of Pastor Chris Johnson, he can work it out to get you at the next ministerial meeting, and maybe he could broadcast it to the other churches that don't always go, so that we can get input from the entire church community.
Thank you, Mr. Paris.
Chairman Little,
Thank
if
you,
you'd
Chairman
like, I'm sorry, we can re-forward you the Word version of the ordinance, the draft ordinance, if you want to share that with them, at your meeting, obviously, so they have it in front of them, they have a chance to review it, and then
That'd be
have
great.
meaningful discussion with you. Okay.
That would be great. Thank you, Joshua.
Mr. Chairman, what is the feasibility of waiving the permit fees? So I think you should find that out.
Of waiving the permit fees?
You mean once the ministerial commission gets together and...
I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't want it to be viewed by the community as just a money grab by the city. So before you go to this committee, you might want to talk to Mr. Bozigian or them in regards to, is it possible to waive the permit fees for certain groups?
Okay. We can do that. We'll set that up with Mr. Bozigian then. Anything else? Any other comments? Then Joshua, if we could have that PDF sent to us, and then we can, and I'll get a hold of, thank you, Mr. Paris, I'll get a hold of Chris Johnson or at contact, and we'll see you again on that agenda and meet with him, so. Moving along. Continue CB1 on continued business. Are we going to continue that until Mr. Dorico gets back and
Yeah, just very briefly, we had hoped to get the subcommittee and some of the hotel owners together, and also the Sheriff's Department task force. It just didn't work with vacation schedules and so on. So when Lee returns from vacation next week, we'll get in touch with the task force team, get their availability to come up and meet with you and meet with some of the owners, and hopefully get that taken care of sometime late June, July, early August. So we'll be in touch with you about that, those on the subcommittee.
Okay. Thank you. Sheriff's Department.
Hello, good morning. I'm Deputy DeSiga. I work at Lancaster Station. Deputy Scott has been promoted to detective, so he has moved on to Palmdale Station. They snagged him up before we could, so.
What?
Here.
We were told that this morning.
So, so I will be presenting from now on. They won't be replacing him, so it will just be me. So thank you for having me. We're going to start with our Crime Commission. So for our first slide, we have our felony arrest for the burglary suppression team. We have 16 for the month of June. For search warrants, we have 1. For our warrant arrests, we had 6. Our firearms recovered were 1. Our team was able to recover $75,000 worth of stolen property, and they were able to return it to the right owners. I'm sorry. Next slide is going to be our LANCAP team. They had 44 felony arrests, 25 misdemeanor arrests, totaling 69 arrests for the month of June. They recovered 10 stolen vehicles, and they recovered 1 firearm. For our robbery team, our crime analyst is on vacation, so I was not able to get the numbers for June, but I did get just totals on their activity. They did have 21 total arrests, 12 were armed, and 9 were strong-armed. For our crime prevention, our team, I do the Lancaster's Most Wanted via our social media. Every month or every week, we have someone who we're looking for. Our detectives have someone they're suspects that they're looking for. So I put out information through local news and our social media, and then Twitter and what else is there? Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So that way, and our Nixle. We use our Nixle a lot for Most Wanted. We also do our neighborhood watch meetings with the city, and we had business before breakfast, which is, I show up or another deputy shows up on early mornings deputies. We try to encourage our early morning deputies to go to this breakfast because it's in the morning and they see what businesses are there, because most of the time it's businesses that we're trying to keep our eyes, our suspects are breaking into our businesses, so we're trying to be out there for them. So when our businesses sees that we're there, they're pretty encouraging that we're there. For our next slide, our community engagement that we did, let's see, our coffee with the deputy at Crazy Autos. We did our torch run with the Special Olympics, our open house, the Tip of Cop at Crazy Autos, and then we also did our Salvation Army homeless shelter. And then these are just some of the pictures that we had for our events. The torch run was actually pretty nice to do. We did it with our Special Olympics. What happens is we pair up with an athlete, and they run with us, and we buy or we sell T-shirts for them so that they can go on these their events, or what are they called? I lost the word. But or compete. When they compete, they don't have to pay for anything. So that's why we get with them and try and raise money for them. And then we were able to raise over $3,000 for them for the coffee, Tip of Cop. I'm sorry, not coffee with the deputy, Tip of Cop. So we were able to raise $3,000 for them, and that stays up here for the Antelope Valley athletes.
Very good.
Allie and I and our CAC members went to the homeless shelter on the Salvation Army at 60th West and Avenue I, and we served 100 hot dogs to our homeless clients. And so it was an interesting the way they have it set up. It's very fast. They were welcoming. Even the homeless clients were very welcoming to us, and they had good conversation, back and forth. So we just provide numbers that they want, any questions that they may have. So it was nice. The next one. Our next slide is our Comcast for the city. So for our first slide, we have our homicides. Our average is usually 1. In the month of June, we had 2, and that's because of the little 10-year-old that we had, the incident with our little 10-year-old. On our rapes, we have downward. Our average is usually about 9, and right now we're down to 7. Our robberies are slowly going down. It looks like we're at like 16 robberies for the month of June. Our aggravated assaults, our usual count is 70, and it looks like they're slowly coming down, but we're still not even below our average. Our domestic violence are up by 2.
Thank you for adding that.
Oh, you're welcome. Our burglaries are our average is at 84, but it looks like in May we went down and slowly creeping back up. So hopefully for the month of July, it'll remain underneath the 84 average percent. Our larcenies are still rising. Hopefully with the restructuring of our land cap office and the burglaries and suppression, robbery and burglary suppression teams, we'll be able to get those numbers down. For our grand theft vehicles, we do have, our average is 57. Right now it's at a rise. We're at 80 something, 85 vehicles.
Do we have any reason for that?
Information on that, sir?
A couple of different reasons, but something of note, I was talking to Mr. Dorico about it, is to see if there's some way we can kind of tackle it with maybe some type of ordinance or look into it, is we're seeing a large increase in like U-Haul rental car type things, because the companies are allowing, a number of the rental companies, U-Haul being one of them, are allowing people to like rent a vehicle completely over the internet, and they actually never see the person. They make some kind of arrangement to give the keys, for them to pick up the keys. So we're getting a lot of embezzled vehicles that turn into stolen vehicles behind these scams with the rental companies. So our detectives have been talking with them, trying to deal with their corporate security people to try to get them to change that policy and the way they do their rentals. Almost, I don't have the exact number, but it was almost half of our stolen vehicles last month were rental vehicles that were embezzled and ultimately stolen. So we're working with them, and I was talking to Mr. Dorico about maybe exploring ways the city could put some pressure on these folks to tighten up their security. But with them, it's kind of a numbers game and a profit game, and what is more convenient for their customer versus their loss. I think they look at it that way. So we're trying to impress upon them the way we look at it and trying to find a happy medium with that. But that was our biggest change was in that one specific area. And in fact, we've had a working group that has been kind of keeping our numbers down compared to other parts of the county. Out in the Antelope Valley, we've been pretty successful. It's been a combination of the COPS teams, TRAP, which is a task force for regional auto theft prevention, the crime analysts all get together. We've had a working group going. In fact, they're having a meeting right now downstairs in the basement. That's the one I just ran from to get over here. And that issue was coming up. They're seeing that in other parts of Southern California also, not only with rental trucks or moving trucks, but with commercial equipment, like bobcats and earth movers and that type of equipment, because with the construction trade, it's very common for them to order a vehicle through the internet overnight and have a tractor dropped off or some kind of commercial cement mixer dropped off, and it's not all that unusual for them to have that occur. So the criminal element is taking advantage of that business practice. So the trap folks are working with those commercial companies also trying to help curb that. But that's our biggest difference we're seeing is with the rentals and commercial vehicles right now.
It seems to, obviously I can understand the numbers game on them, but we also have a numbers game too, and our numbers are rising. So, so I mean, that's what we're concerned about. So when we take a look at this, how feasible is it when coming up with some type of ordinance that would hinder internet rentals and this and that and everything else? I mean, we have, with the age of internet and the web and everything else, it seems like it's just an ongoing issue. What, Jocelyn, what can we, I'm sorry,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Taking other notes. You can direct staff to do a little research, to look into it, to...
I think it's important, yeah. At least I do. I think it's important. Obviously, if our count is going up, and the city of Lancaster council and has made it perfectly clear what we're trying to accomplish here, and with numbers like this going up, and Captain, like you said, it's
Captain.
going, so
sorry.
yeah. So I'm just kind of curious. Mr. Paris.
Yes, just a few questions, Captain. If it's grand theft auto, you're recording under a 10851 violation, and that's why it's showing up as a Part 1 crime?
Yes. It initially starts out as an embezzled vehicle.
Right.
And we don't actually enter them in stolen for, I want to say it's 30 days now. So the detective looks at it. But ultimately, they're becoming stolen. And that was our biggest, actually, that's our biggest rise. We've been very lucky with, I shouldn't say lucky, it's just through hard work, where in comparison to the rest of Southern California, we've done a pretty good job of holding level. Like if you look at the stats, they're holding level, actually downward trending, and then just recently, the last couple months, we're starting to see this rise. And you're always going to have a little bit of fluctuation up and down with stolen vehicles, but with a rise that sharp, that's what's accounting for it right now. And another problem we're seeing is that with Prop 47 and AB 109 and all these different realignment strategies, the punishment, it takes us, we'll arrest people repeatedly for stolen vehicles a number of times before they really do any significant jail time behind it. So that's another struggle we have is the criminal element sees that there's just, they're weighing their factor of deterrent versus committing the crime, and that's another thing that we battle with. Like our last crime management forum period, we cover a month, mid-month. We arrested 26 suspects in that month period for grand theft auto. And it's a matter of keeping them in jail. They're getting arrested. It's just a matter of keeping them in jail so they don't commit again. And with repeat offenses, they do ultimately do some more significant time, but we're seeing us taking repeated arrest for that offense.
Would it be possible to go back, since we started that rise, and look at the stolen vehicles, which rental companies specifically have the most stolen vehicles and the reasons why, and then do a little bit of study like that, and then see if based upon the policies that they're using, maybe a more appropriate coding would be embezzled vehicles, and then work on an ordinance regarding how to change their business practice that way?
I'm sure that my auto theft detectives could give me those numbers quite readily. So yes, we could.
And then that would just kind of educate the commission a little bit more on exactly who's causing the problem, what the problem is, and give some other potential solutions to it.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Thank you very much, Captain.
If I may, if I understand the problem, the victim in this crime is the rental company.
That's correct.
So in effect, the rental company has become more lax in their rental process, and they expect the sheriff's department to do their debt collection.
Well, one could look at it that way. I don't know if I'd say it quite like that, but one could look at it that way. And then
Makes sense to me.
If the DA was here, he could probably give you a little more insight on how cooperative the companies are in prosecution.
But in
experiences that's a challenge for them over my career I've seen, but I wouldn't want to speak on their behalf on what kind of success that they have with these companies actually being.
It may be impractical, but it would seem to me that if you stopped calling this a crime, that is when the rental company was so lax in their rental system that it was easy not to return the car, that would solve the problem of encouraging the rental companies to be a little bit more attentive in their rental policies.
In theory, if we stopped calling it a crime, that would work. But we don't determine the elements of the crime. The legislature determines the elements of a crime. And if the elements are there, then we have a crime.
Question. I'm a little confused as to. We've all rented cars in the past. I just got through doing it. Exactly how does this crime take place? I mean, every time I've ever rented a car, you have to have your driver's license, you have to show proof, and I just don't understand. You say it's done over the internet, but when the car is picked up, it seems to me the person that registered over the internet has to produce a driver's license.
We're seeing it more with rental, with the like moving vans like U-Hauls and commercial equipment than we are with cars, with rental cars, so to speak. But if you would like, I could have one of our auto theft detectives come with us at the next commission meeting. And,
I think that would
give you
be,
a rundown.
yeah.
I'm real curious to see how that whole scam is done and what practices the rental companies need to put in place and what they've laxed on to make it happen.
Yeah. And I think part of it especially with the construction equipment is a lot of times with maintenance, that type of stuff, it's an emergency type thing. We need a cement mixer drop tomorrow morning at this site, or we have we need some type of bobcat dropped off tomorrow morning at this site. And I think that's something that's now being exploited more than it was in the past. As one of the officers from the detectives from TRAP was talking about, they're seeing a lot more. And unless the driver's attentive, unless the driver's actually delivering is attentive and realizes, wait a minute, this isn't right. This doesn't seem to be a good drop. It goes through, and then they're trying to track it down the next day. But I'd be happy to have one of our auto theft detectives.
Captain, yeah, could we have somebody on their next meeting? Yeah, because it just doesn't make sense. I mean, obviously the profits far outweigh the problem. It's so, and we want to take care of the problem.
Yes, and we might have some more information on any success that they've had with management at that point also.
Thank you.
And a good point, what Howard, you brought up too, is that I'm kind of amazed too, because when you rent a car, you gotta show
License, credit card, the whole 9 yards. I mean, so.
That's the old way. Everything can be done on online.
do what? Do what?
Everything it can be done on online.
Yeah.
Hey, it's,
Yeah, but you have to pick up the car. You can't pick up the car from the computer.
Mr. Paris.
Chairman Little.
Yes, sir.
Just a question for Jocelyn is, can we look at when somebody rents a car, they have a contract. When they don't return the car, it's a breach of that contract. Why can't we look at talking to them about it being a civil problem rather than using police resources for their poor management?
Well, we can certainly encourage the rental companies to go the civil route versus relying on the sheriff's department to use their resources to pick up their vehicles. I'll have to defer to Captain Weber with regards to what their directive is. If there's a crime on the books and it meets the elements of the crime, then they have to do what they have to do. But we can certainly take a look at the contractual requirements, and you and I can discuss that. And if we can, before we go down the ordinance route, we can try to get the companies together and let's just have a talk. I mean, I get that they're trying to streamline things, but maybe it's just as simple as getting some people in a room and talking through what the issues are.
Exactly. Look at the stats, see which companies have the most vehicles, invite one of their top people over for a chat and see what can be worked out with the captain and our city staff. Captain, would that work for you?
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
yeah, speaking of that U-Haul rental trucks, I know there are a lot of U-Haul rental truck places in town. Are they operated under one business license?
I don't know if U-Haul is a franchise thing.
It is.
It is.
It is, and they're fairly easy to get because I'm starting to see them more in places that really look out of place.
Correct.
And that may be why some of their business practices aren't best management practices, because they're not rigorously screened by U-Haul.
Yeah, I've actually seen them at like a liquor store or,
Yeah.
I'm serious, to where they're renting U-Haul.
Not convenience store. It wasn't a convenience store. He said liquor store. He said liquor store. It was not a convenience store.
It's the same
That's why I'm going
category
to
anyway.
And for our sorry to interrupt, and for our last slide, we have arsons, which is, our arsons are down too.
I'm sorry. So we have direction, Captain, that we'll have something on the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic.
I did have one other question regarding the reports, and I don't know how much work this is involved. If it's too much, then we'll let it go. But I'm real curious to see, going through each one of these reports, how do we rank up against other cities in Southern California? I mean, in other words, if we have a grand theft of vehicles of 80, I mean, are other cities experiencing the same thing, or we're just being lackadaisical or not enforcing? And it's not just grand theft on all of them. I'd like to know where we stand up with other cities. It would help us to know as a commission to feel that our city is safer than others, or we have some work to do.
At one point, Commissioner Harris, there was some conversation on the dais about giving the sheriff's department and their statistics people a little extra time to do some more research. And I think you were talking at one point about maybe being 1 month behind in your reportage. So in other words, today we would be talking about May, which would give them a full month to
And that's fine.
get our numbers and then to do the comparisons, to provide additional data after your preliminary review of it before the meeting, then they could answer some of those questions at that meeting.
Absolutely. Even if it was something we got every other month, if it was more compiled.
I agree.
Perhaps every other month, and at the same time, it would allow them to get us the information anywhere from a week to 2 weeks before the meeting so we could review it as well.
And a little more dialogue on the reasons why. I mean,
Right.
You know, exactly what you're saying. You know, so we want a little bit more detail. I mean, the numbers are fine, but when we get them, you know, and I understand your job is adding something else to what you do is incredible. What you guys already do, but the consensus is we had a little more dialogue on the reasons why and what we can look at more data. So
So we'll think for next June or next month's meeting, would you like the June stats again with more detail? Or
Yes.
that would be
Yes.
great.
That'd be perfect.
That gives you some time. Yes, I think that's a consensus.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And then for our last one, it's going to be LEAPS, our last report. Let's see. During the month of June, LASD formally logged 83 LEAPS service calls supporting tactical field operations. LEAPS was dispatched 98 times, totaling 20.8 hours, and was airborne, providing strategic surveillance for 297.1 hours. With their help, we were able to do 16 arrests. They helped with 26 fights and assaults. They were able to help surveillance 28 burglary robberies, 10 traffic stops, 20 other offenses and suspicious circumstances, and they were able to help us with 7 persons with guns. On the back, out of 100%, we had 31% people, their property, 30% people were observed, 11% was property crimes, 17% were arrests and detentions, 13 were vehicles, and 28% were observations. They also helped us with our open house in June. They had a little setup there, and it was great. I think they had a good turnout. People were very interested as to what LEAPS did, so that was very helpful for some of our community members that didn't know what kind of equipment we had. So they had a good time. Thank you, sir, for your setup. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got a question. I don't know. It's not a question, but I was told the amount of money you raise at Tifo Cops, that's one of the highest in LA County. Is that true?
Yes, that is true.
Oh, okay.
It is.
Thank you. Very good job.
Thank you, sir.
California Highway Patrol, how are you? Good morning.
During the month of June, we had a total of 57 impaired driver arrests, including 1 felony DUI for injuries, 1 drug possession arrest, 8 auto theft recoveries. We issued 816 citations for speeding violations, issued 55 seatbelt restraints, and 35 distracted driver, which all had to do with handheld phones.
Cell phones.
Utilizing them while driving. We investigated 152 collisions. 3 of those were fatal collisions, bringing our total for the year up to 19 fatal collisions. We made just over 2,077 enforcement contacts, and of those, 1,448 were resulted in either arrests or citations. During the month, we also participated in the Tippecop, in the Torchon. Our Tippecop was in April, I believe it was, and we raised $3,200 during that. Of big collisions, the 152, 17 were hit and runs, and 19 were impaired driver involved of the 152 collisions. That's about all I have. Anyone have any questions?
Any questions?
Well, we do, because of the, generally, every year, there's always an uptick in DUI driving in July and August are our main summer months. We do have a DUI checkpoint as well as roving DUI, which is increased patrol during the graveyard hours for July and August, and the checkpoint coincides with the Antelope Valley Fair, so you are all fairly warm.
Fairly noted.
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 I keep my RV there, so.
Yeah. Smart. That's very smart.
These statistics, are they for your jurisdiction or just for Lancaster?
Those are for our entire jurisdiction.
And your jurisdiction is from San Diego?
From north of all the way to Avenue A.
Okay.
That's north and south, and to 263rd to the east, and 240th to the west.
So it's all the unincorporated areas up here, not including the city proper of Lancaster and Compton. So it's actually, Southern Division has 10, Southern Division CHP. That's it, I don't think
Mike, I haven't had it on at all. Southern Division CHP, we have 10 offices up in Los Angeles County, and we have the largest geographical area.
How many officers? How many total officers?
officers.
Yeah.
We have 46 uniforms, 40 officers, 4 sergeants, and 1 lieutenant and 1 captain.
Any other questions? Good. Thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you. District Attorney's not here today? Okay. Jocelyn?
I don't have anything else to talk about. I think you've heard more than enough from me today, unless you have any questions.
We never have enough. We always like talking, hearing more from you. Okay. Any questions for Jocelyn at all? No? Lee's on vacation or, okay.
Good morning, Chairman Little and Commissioners. Mr. DeRico's on vacation, so I'm taking his spot today. The only thing, well, not the only thing, the one thing we're gearing up for in the Public Safety Department is our 8th annual National Night Out event, which will take place on Thursday, August 2nd from 4 to 8 p.m. on Ehrlich Avenue between Lancaster Boulevard and Kettering Street. I want to welcome all of our community members and anybody here in this room that would like to attend. I think it's going to be a very great turnout this year, and I'll give you just some of our vendors that will be there this year. Our City of Lancaster Public Safety Department, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Los Angeles County Fire Department, Los Angeles County Animal Care and Control, California Highway Patrol, Antelope Valley CERT, Antelope Valley Partners for Health, Child and Family Guidance Center, American Red Cross, Antelope Valley Transit Authority, Ready Lancaster, Help for Heroes, Antelope Valley Hospital, City of Hope, Tarzana Treatment Center, Jacob Hefter Foundation, and we have a ton more. This year, the national sponsor is Ring, who provides the Ring doorbells for home security, so we're excited about that.
That's cool.
And that's it. But I'd like everyone to come. It's absolutely free, and we have a very good time. We had a great turnout last year, and it was very hot outside, so I think we're going to have an even greater turnout this year, so we're excited.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any questions? Nothing? Okay. Ricker?
Thank you, Chairman Little. Thank you, Commissioners, for inviting us. Just go over a couple of legislation. As you know, the legislators are on their summer recess right now, so they're in the district, so you may see Scott throughout the week here. Make sure you walk up and say hi. Going over a couple bills that we still have pending that pertain to the Criminal Justice Commission, which is SB 467, which is modernized and resolves issues concerning the use of technology in remote court appearances. This is in the Assembly Judiciary Committee right now. We're looking at it for a 2-year bill. SB 1024, which is court-ordered treatment for convicted animal abusers, imposes optional education courses for all animal abuse offenders and mandatory mental health evaluations. This is in the Assembly Appropriations Committee. It's already passed the Senate. SB 1198, which gives statutory authorities Sex Offender Management Board to collect background information on sex offenders from the California Department of Justice for research purposes. This is also in the Assembly Appropriations Committee. It's out of the Senate. Hopefully when they come back in the 1st of August that it'll move back over to the Senate. And if there's any revisions, then it'll go to the governor. SB 1199 requires the California Department of Corrections and Rehab to first try to place sex offenders that are released on parole, probation, or on post-release community supervision to the city or a close geographic location where they have had family and social economic. We talked about this with the Pillow Cape Rapist thing. We think it's a good thing. We don't want to put somebody back in an area where they offended close to schools or anything, but we don't need to be a dumping ground out here in the Antelope Valley for sex offenders down in the LA area. This is still, it's on the Senate floor for concurrence and Assembly amendments. They made some changes on it, so when they come back in the 1st of August, we're hoping this will go to the governor's desk. So, thank you. Any questions, Howard? You have one? Okay.
Thanks, Rick. Vanessa, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. As Rick said, the legislature is on recess for the next 4 weeks, so I just had Sacramento send me a little bit of information on what's been going on. So, according to the latest Attorney General report on crime in California, violent crime is up. Hate crimes have increased significantly, 17.4% in the last year. Motor vehicle theft rates have decreased, and total arrest rates have decreased due to the recently passed propositions. The initiative to correct unintended consequences of Proposition 47 and 57 did not qualify for the November ballot, and this was about skewing crime statistics. Fewer reports and arrests are being made due to the lack of consequences, and this is highly visible in robbery and retail crimes. Bail reform will likely be coming before the legislature for a vote before the end of the session this year. Not a complete elimination of money bail, but monetary consequences are to be a last resort. Costly pre-trial services to ensure folks are showing up to court, and limited judicial discretion release based on a computer algorithm. And the final version is not yet in print, so we'll keep you updated on that. So that's what's going on. I did want to let you guys know that on August 5th, Senator Wilk's office and Assemblyman Lackey's office is putting together a day at Jethawk Stadium, and we're working with different groups in the community to bring kids from areas who have never been to Jethawk Stadium. And we're going to have motivational speakers, and we're going to set up tables of all the things that are available in the different communities as resources, and they're going to have hot dogs and get to throw the ball around and then watch the game. So that'll be August 5th, and we'll probably be reaching out to several of you for ideas and for help. So that's it.
Any questions? Thank you, Vanessa. Okay, public business from floor and non-agendized items. This is the time where you can fill out a speaker card. You have 3 minutes to speak on anything that's not on the agenda. The commission cannot take action or we can direct staff to look into things. So we have a couple speaker cards. Shannon McDonald. Hi, Shannon.
Hi. Good morning, Commission. Good morning, staff. I wanted to speak, there's a couple things I wanted to speak on, but my main one is, without getting too much into detail, is anyone who hears my voice right now, please, 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 please. I already have enough problems with most of the parents have problems with our kids keeping their attention span when it comes to the electronics. And one thing I found out just within the last 4 days is that I'm not doing a good enough job with my own children, because my daughter, I have children who are distracted and they're not seeing the surroundings around them. And so things are happening and they're not realizing that they're happening. And to be told by my daughter, or any kid, hey, were you paying attention? I was just distracted by my phone. It just did something to me. And I just want to put that out there, that parents I think we need to be more aware of really what's going on with these kids. They can be innocent all they want, so they can be minding their own business, but that doesn't apply to everybody. Everybody doesn't have the same sense of respect and humanity that most of the population has, put it like that. So I just wanted to bring that up, because I'm not the happiest person in the world right now, but I know that I appreciate the city of Lancaster for being so responsive to the needs of the community. And that goes for all law enforcement. I'm sorry. I just think that we just need to be a little bit more careful when it comes to our kids and what they're doing, because I think that we trust our kids. We even have good kids. Most of us have good kids, and it's not their fault. I think that they need to have a little bit more responsibility. That's my bad for my own children, but I think that as parents, I think that we have to put more in it. I heard a statement that said, if you're not yelling, and I hate to say this because I don't want to seem like mean or anything, but it's kind of true. If you're not yelling at your kids enough, you're not spending enough time with them. I mean, especially these kids nowadays. I mean, you got to do more work with them verbally and training them and things for the real world. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you for your time. You guys have a nice day, okay?
I agree with you, Shannon. Thank you so much. Mr. David Paul.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, and Commissioners, good morning. It's fun to be here. There's kind of good energy in the room today. I feel it. We're talking about a lot of these things that just don't go away and seem to get worse, but it always does me good to see how this community comes together in response to some of these issues. I want to say, Mr. Rob Parrish, you're looking pretty dapper today, but I'm surprised to see you wearing a tie. So, you didn't get the memo, I guess.
I can be okay with 7% less brain activity.
Yeah, you got plenty to burn. So, thank you so much. Some of these problems, it was brought up last night at the meeting, and I know some of the people in here remember when we used to put in the crime stats the alarm calls. So the mayor was talking about that, and it's more of a public shaming thing, but we want to get these things down. We want to make our numbers look good. I mean, what we really want is people to act right, and that's what Shannon was talking about. That begins at home. And it always surprises me, we do all these things to ourselves as a society, like, for instance, jail time. And everybody knows if you go to jail, even before all the Prop 47, 57, you got 10% of the time. So if you raise your children to tell them, I mean it, you're going to get 10% of the consequences. What is that? So we have to work on all these things. And in the meantime, we have to just keep in there plugging along. So I don't have much more this morning, but I love to come here and hear what's going on in the community and see all the dedicated people trying to solve these problems that aren't our fault, but we have to deal with them. So thank you to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, David, as always. Thank you so much. Commissioner comments, anything? Vice Mayor, anything? Mr. Paris, nothing? Good. Mr. Bozilian, anything? No? Good. All right. Then we'll stand adjourned until August 8th at 10 a.m.